Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 7th episode of Let's Talk About OMM Research. We're glad to have you joining us today. So just some quick housekeeping things for this episode. Since this is a network update, we will not be having CME available for this session. So there's no need to sign into the chat unless you just want to say hi or something. If you have technical issues, please send us a message in the chat. And also, if you have questions or comments during the session, if you want to put those in the Q&A pod, or you can save them until the end if you would prefer that. And at that time, we'll be having open discussion. We hope to have a good discussion about some issues for your practice-based research network, DO-Touch.NET. So at that time, if you would like to make a comment, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. So without further ado then, I would like to welcome you and start by telling you about what we did at Convo this year. So the AAO Convo. Overall, we had this was our 11th year at Convo. So we've been there every year since 2011. This was our first virtual one, as it was for everyone. DO-Touch.NET was one of 6 gold sponsors for AAO Convo this year, and one of 12 exhibitors. We had 6 new members join us. Just so for those of you that weren't there, we had content. So the exhibit hall was open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. And so we had content running that whole time. We had a slideshow that was running, and then we had multiple live booth sessions each day where we were available to talk to people who dropped by. And we met a few new people that way. Friday morning, we held our Let's Talk About OMM Research Journal Club. And that was, I think that was an excellent presentation by Amy Dean and Brian Degenhardt. And if you weren't able to attend, I strongly encourage you to go to the website, log in, and under the discussion forum area in the members only section of the website, you can watch that recording, and there is the discussion forum there available for continuing the discussion that started during that journal club. So I encourage you to review that and to give us your thoughts about the journal article that Amy presented about. Also, Saturday afternoon during Convo, we replayed the Let's Talk About OMM Research webinar on using patient-reported outcomes in the clinical setting. We replayed that recording. That webinar was from our February episode. And once again, Judy Baumhauer presented very practical applications of using practice or patient-reported outcomes in your clinic. And I strongly encourage you to also review that recording. And if you have any comments about that one, we can start a discussion about how we can better use patient-reported outcomes in the clinic, how DO-Touch.NET members can do that. And then Thursday evening, we had a presentation at the RPM Grand Rounds. Brian Degenhart made a presentation about an upcoming research opportunity for DO-Touch.NET members about OMT and post-COVID symptoms. And he will be discussing more about this later in our episode this morning. So, and now I'm going to turn the time over to Brian for him to talk about a new initiative that the AT Still Research Institute has that we want to invite members to participate in. Take it away, Brian.
Thank you, Jane. I'm hearing some feedback on my side. Is it coming over there?
A little bit. I think you have two instances open.
Okay.
That's better. Yes.
Okay, so now reshare then? No, it says I'm still. Can
Yep,
you see the screen? Okay.
I removed your other you.
Thank you. Yep, I tried really hard before. Anyway, thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you. And thank you, Jane, for getting us up and running on our quarterly meeting. So it's my honor to introduce two members of DO-Touch.NET, a new initiative that we have within the AT Still Research Institute. And this has been under development for 6 years, and it is the establishment of the International Consortium on Manual Therapies, or ICMT. The ICMT is a consortium that provides a venue for practitioners and researchers to collaborate in an open-minded, supportive, progressive, and respectful multi-professional environment to discuss ways to advance the practice and science of manual therapies. We value that different cultures, disciplines, and manual therapy backgrounds that provide various perspectives and skill sets in manual medicines are important, and we can certainly improve our ability to take care of our patients, our clients, to advance our understanding of what we do if we work together versus staying in the silos that were established throughout the 20th century. Our vision is that through this process, there will be an advancement of knowledge of manual therapy and the quality of care by its practitioners, and that this process will be hastened through interprofessional engagement, understanding, and communication about practice, educational principles, and research designs and outcomes that relate to the manual therapy disciplines. As I said, that we are at the AT Still Research Institute, the primary sponsor. And if anyone is interested in joining the consortium, we encourage you to get a hold of us, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the presentation. So our first main contribution to the clinical and scientific community is our conference in 2022, which will be on May 6th through 8th at Phoenix, Arizona. The conference will offer attendees the latest scientific presentations while engaging practitioners and researchers across manual therapy spectrums in 3 topic areas. The first one is in defining manual therapy procedures across professions to promote understanding and a lexicon for communication. So first of all, just to make sure people understand why we are using the terms we are using. Clearly in osteopathic medicine, we have for 125 years defined our work as manual treatment. And treatment is something that physicians do. In 2004 at NIH, they ended up creating the term manual therapy as the overarching blanket to define anyone that uses their hands within a delivery system for patients or their clients. And so whether we like it or not, we are part of the manual therapy discipline. And for that reason, we're using that terminology. We know just intuitively that there's only so many things we can do with our hands on a body. We can push, we can pull, we can twist the body. And so we know that there's got to be a lot of overlap and similarities in regards to the work that is being done within the general manual therapy field. But unfortunately, because we developed and maintained ourselves in silos, we all have different ways of talking about what we do. It is talking about the same thing, but using different language. So it inhibits our ability to communicate, to compare the research that's being done, to understand how we generalize the outcomes of what's being done within the various professions. And so this topic 1 is critical in establishing a foundation for communication. Topic 2 is for summarizing and comparing physiological theories put forth by professions, explaining the proposed impact of manual therapies on the body. And what we're going to do is once we have summarized and compared these physiologic theories across the professions, then we're going to then compare that to current evidence, which will be involved in topic 3. From what we can tell just within the literature in general over the years is that there are some very consistent themes or theories about what we do with our hands that definitely cut across profession boundaries. And so we want to make sure, once again, that we're understanding where those physiological theories are being applied to with various styles of techniques, and then begin to ask the question, well, are these theories actually evidence-based now? Are there things that actually indicate that they may not be as developed or as modern as we think they are and are in need of some refinement? And so that's where topic 3 comes in play. Topic 3 looks at reporting and explaining current and future biomedical approaches that have been or may be helpful in measuring physiologic effects of manual therapies. So this group has identified about 650 articles within mainstream literature that they are reviewing and summarizing and comparing to help kind of define what is our current evidence-based knowledge around manual therapies. And then that information is going to be compared to topic 2 in order for us to create a up-to-date foundation regarding, what are the relevant physiologic theories that we have some support for, or that we think we may not have much support for, but are likely components to explaining why our hands have the effects they do. And then that will help us to inform the basic science researchers that are part of the consortium to help navigate or create a roadmap for the future research within this field.
Brian, when you shared the screen, did you check the box that said share computer audio?
Say that again?
When you shared the screen, did you check the little box that said share computer audio?
Do I have to stop share in order to redo that? Let's see.
Yep, sorry.
Now here it is. I got it. Very good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kendi Hensel, and I'm an OMM physician and researcher at the Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine. To me, using the manual approach of OMT is a way to improve the health of my patients, decrease their pain, and help them live fuller, more comfortable lives. It's a way of connecting the science of the musculoskeletal system with all the other systems of the body to optimize health and improve function. The benefits of this interprofessional collaboration are to help create a foundation of understanding of the manual work that all of these professions do, and to use that foundation to build a stronger evidence base for the use of body-based therapies, including OMT. Understanding the commonalities between these different therapies and treatments may help us use the research that each individual profession has done and leverage it to benefit all of us. Each profession has a different perspective and some different understandings that, when combined, may make all of us stronger, able to better communicate, able to do better research, and ultimately to provide better care for our patients. Come join the conversation at ICMT.
So Kendi provides an osteopathic perspective. Our next person is from the massage therapy community.
I'm very excited about the conference that's coming up, especially for massage therapists. There's multiple goals, obviously, that I have for my own community with this. But one is for other manual therapy professions to understand what we do know and how we do practice and how we can be supportive part of their team. And that, again, is supporting that whole interdisciplinary collaboration that will expand services for the people that we want to help, and be able to do that by understanding each other. And what better way to do that than to meet, both in person and virtually? And I'm also excited about the webinar that we're going to have in the fall that will start that process of educating and letting my discipline, massage therapy, know that we have a firm standing, a level of respect, and the obligation to help others understand who we are and what we do. So the meetings that are upcoming is a platform that I am very excited about.
So Sandy had mentioned that we're going to be having a webinar this fall, and that will be just no more than a 1.5 to 2 hour webinar to start introducing the details of the work that's being done by the members of ICMT right now over what will have been over a 1.5 years at that time. And they will have worked 2 years in preparation for our conference in the spring. We have amazing keynote speakers. Our one is Dr. Lars Arndt Nielsen. He is from Denmark, and he has approximately a 30-year history of doing musculoskeletal research, particularly in the area of pain. He has generated over 900 peer-reviewed papers looking at translational, experimental, and clinical pain research, and has really led the way of building a bridge between clinicians and researchers within the field of musculoskeletal medicine and pain management. Our other keynote speaker is Helene Langevin. She is the director for the National Center of Complementary and Integrative Health, and she has also been an active researcher in the field of chronic musculoskeletal pain, looking a lot at the mechanisms of acupuncture, but has been very supportive of manual and movement-based therapies in her work. And so she's going to be our closing keynote speaker that will help to give a vision of where things are going to be going within this field in the future from an NIH perspective. So this meeting will be held at the University of Arizona College of Osteopathic Medicine. This is where one of the co-founders of this consortium, Paul Stanley, who many of us know. He's definitely been an active contributor to research to the osteopathic community. This facility is just perfectly designed for the type of program that we have, where we're going to have presentations to an audience from keynote speakers and panelists. And then we're going to be breaking out into smaller group sessions in order that we really engage the attendees in the work that has been produced by these working groups in these different topic areas, so we can get broader input into refining the outcomes that have been done over the 2 years prior to this meeting. And so I'd just like to finish up by talking about a comment that Charles Darwin gave us, who certainly his contribution to science has been extraordinary, and society in general, whose contribution has been quite significant in his idea of collaboration. And so he defined collaboration this way, that in the long history of humankind, those who learned to collaborate and improvise will most effectively have prevailed. And so in this era where medicine is becoming controlled by so many factors outside of the clinician community, it is really important that we learn to break down our silos, collaborate, work together to provide the best type of care, to help inform research activities and priorities, so that this type of work doesn't just fade away as technology gets more and more part of the human system, but it actually remains vibrant and critical in the future care of patients. So thank you, Jane, for giving me this opportunity to present about the ICMT, or the International Consortium on Manual Therapies. You can go to this website to learn more about the conference, or you can get a hold of us directly if you are interested in participating. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Brian. So our next topic on our agenda is just a brief update. We're on the what we fondly call the OMM utilization study. This was our study on the use and effectiveness of OMM in the clinic setting. We've had 2 manuscripts published already from that project, and we have plans for 4 more, one of which is in draft stage, and we hope to be submitting that this summer. If you are willing to actively participate in manuscript writing, please contact me. We'd be happy to share the fun of manuscript writing. Also, there are a lot of questions that can be answered from this research data set. And for example, Kate Warden and one of their medical students, Kyle Sherwin, are working with me to look at a research question that was posed by Kyle. And so, do you have any research questions that you would like to address that you think might be able to be answered with the research, with the data that we have collected in the OMM utilization study? If you do, please let me know. We'd be happy to talk to you about using this data however we can. So, so our next topic then, we have during AAO, so this is our discussion portion. So we hope to get feedback from you all on a couple of things, because this is, I keep saying this is your practice-based research network. It's not my practice-based research network. It's not Brian's. Well, it is Brian's, but it's yours too. That's the point of practice-based research networks. So we hope we can have some discussion about a couple of topics. The first one I wanted to show you, we asked some questions on the AAO convocation post-event questionnaire. And so for those of you that were that attended Convo, you might have seen our questions on that survey. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that we learned from that, from those questions. So we had 5 questions. The first one was just trying to get a sense for how often people are trying to expand their understanding of the latest evidence regarding OMM or manual therapies. So we asked in the average month. And so, a lot of people, over 50% of the people said they were expanding, they were searching for more information a couple times a month. So that encourages me that we need to get more information out there because people are searching for it. We did ask about how interested people were in collaborating with other professions. For example, like participating in the ICMT conference. And, that you can see on this slide that, there are people that are not sure, interested and very interested. There are very few people that are not interested. So I think that's good news for the ICMT conference. We just did this to try to see if we can figure out how to, what motivates people to attend webinars. And seems like discounted CME, the discounted CME like we offer, might have some motivation, might be some slight motivating factor. We did ask when were the best times for people to attend these Let's Talk About OMM research events. And so the time period that we are currently in is this Monday through Friday late morning, and it's according to the AAO Convo attendees, it's the worst time, or almost the worst time. Please excuse my cat; she's being very helpful. So we will be sending out a doodle poll in the next couple months to try to find a more optimal time for these webinars. This seems like a good time, Brian, if you want to announce the addition to our team.
Okay. So we're very excited that we have been able to hire a new member for our team. Many of you remember Lisa Norman, who moved on to another position at the university last year. We have a new network coordinator who will be joining us at the end of April. Sarah Amini Rod is her name, and Sarah has already been part of the university for about 10 years in a variety of capacities, and she is has a lot of experience to bring into the new position, including a lot of excitement and passion for the work that we're doing within the network. So you'll be getting a lot of information from her to get introductions and to have her start advancing some of the things that we've been less able to do, being short-personed over the last year. So anyway, we're excited to have her as part of our team, and you'll be hearing more from her shortly.
Thanks, and that will include this doodle poll. So, among many other things. So, the final question that we asked during from the post-event convo survey was this one. What are the barriers that keep you from participating in research studies focused on osteopathic manipulation? Now, I'm not sure which of you answered this, but this really made me smile. Somebody's a member of DO-Touch.NET and views that as taking away the barriers for them participating in research. And that's actually what I'd like to have our discussion focus on, is how can we get that message to others of your colleagues, because there were also answers like, my focus more on patient care. This person mentioned time and interest. It sounds like they're not interested in research. The question is, what kind of concept do they have of research? One person said they didn't have enough patients of one type, so thinking they had to, if they were doing it by themselves, the research by themselves, they may not have enough patients of one type, but getting the message out that, if we all combine together, and you put in your 2 patients and you put in your 3 and whatever, then we have enough patients of one type. Access was another barrier. And as well as, my patients are too complicated for inclusion in any clinical study. Well, for a lot of clinical trials, that may be true, but some of the studies that we've been doing, there isn't too complicated patient. So how do we get that message out? I wanted to share with you this, and I have a small practice. That was another comment. Jeff Franklin put together this word cloud of all the answers uh, to this question. We had 99 people answer this question, and as you can see, time was strongly the most um, cited barrier to participating in research studies. And so how can DO-Touch.NET, are we helping with that barrier, to bring down that barrier of time? And if so, how can we get that message out better to our colleagues? So let's open up to discussion about that.
All right, I have one hand up. Looks like Dr. Brooks. Here you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So it may be a general service that can be provided, but it also might have implications for at least DOs in the United States participating in research. I don't know that it's broadly known yet, but there's been a profound change in the criteria that need to be met for evaluation and management services. So for anyone who's accepting insurance, the historic method was kind of, I could use some pejorative words, but it was a mess in terms of confabulating various criteria that need to be met and the criteria of time. And as of January 1st, 2021, now evaluation and management services can be documented solely on the basis of time. And this has certainly been a big issue, both for primary care in general and the use of OMM, because the complaints that we don't have time, we can't get reimbursed for our time. And while it's still critical that evaluation and management be separated from procedures, this might be something that the network and maybe even at the consortium, some education about this could be important in helping people get better reimbursement for their time and then potentially liberating their time for research.
Very good. That's a good idea, Bill. I not being a clinician, I'm not personally familiar with how that works in the United States, but yeah, I think we should start to have a discussion about getting that word out. I see in the chat a message from Dr. Gustafson. Says, well, physicians supposedly are lifelong learners. How can you do patient care without research? We are constantly learning. If we are not, then we should do something else. I think it is a failure of our profession to educate DOs how to do research properly. When you do not understand things, they become hard. Our medical schools fail to educate properly our students. I realize that there's a few that do a good job. So
Jane, can I add a comment here?
please do.
Yeah, so last year's annual meeting, we had our kind of our keynote from the University of Arizona present and about where things are going in regards to reimbursement, and basically from our current model of fee for service to quality care measures. And one of the things that are going to be required of all clinicians, and I think that's why ACGME rules are requiring people to do quality improvement activities during their residency, is because they're going to be requiring that of us as clinicians to indicate what level of reimbursement we will be getting. And so what that means is that that as clinicians, we're going to have to be doing various levels of research, whether it's purely just within our own patient population or within a practice-based research network, to demonstrate that we are improving our quality of our work in order to get reimbursement. So I think that's, whether we like it or not, that's the future that we have. And we're going to have to make time for that to happen. So I think what's happening right now is just a transition from that fee for service into a quality care marketing or management project that they've been actively working on now for many years federally to figure out how they're going to implement that. So something else for us to consider as clinicians, and where research might fit into our activity.
Excellent.
There are a few follow-up comments in the chat for that, and I have 2 hands raised.
Okay. So the follow-up comments in the chat. It sounds like Angelique is strongly in support of Bill's idea of a lecture or a webinar on performing EM and documenting OMM procedures. There's comments from Haley. EM time and decision-making criteria are distinct for billing and coding from OMT. Not at all clear as yet to reimbursement. And I will bring up that this is a US focused issue, I assume. For example, AMA owned CPT codes for 99417 time beyond comprehensive and 99205/99215 only are different from CMS G2212. I hope that you you all know what that's saying, and I apologize, Hallie, for mispronouncing your name. I knew better. So perhaps if we can get Marcus's comment. He has his hand up.
Hi there.
Hi.
So I'm just, last time you said we should introduce ourselves. So I'm Marcus, osteopath from Germany. So I remembered that.
Thank
you. I think looking at this time thing everybody said, I think it's not time itself, it's time for value. So what do I get in return if I, spend my really, the small amount of time I have left in my day in the clinic for doing anything other than what I already do with the patients. And if I just had this thought looking at my iPhone, I can track literally everything I'm doing. So I get my screen time, I know how much time of the day I spend with all the different apps. I can track everything health related. So we are moving into a time where we can track literally every aspect of our life and see how we're doing and where we might do too much, look at too much Instagram, for example. So what the thought that came up was that if there would be some kind of way to track what the patients relay feedback from their treatments, and maybe even your thoughts about the patient, those two aspects, your aspects and the patient's aspects, if they could be tracked and stored and looked into some sort of app or whatever, where you could just look at the progress you're having with your patients. Maybe you're reaching a point where you feel like this feels like we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and maybe there is a time when patients relate good to this, but sometimes they're not. And when you would not have access to any sort of information about what's going on, objective information, you would just be sitting in your clinic thinking about what you're doing wrong, maybe, or whatever, because you do not have any feedback. You're just living in the moment as human beings, as we are. So maybe to give a little value to the time people are, giving into the network, could be to somehow, I'm being hypothetical here, develop some sort of data collection that shows you graphically what you're doing or what has been done and how people are behaving and how you are behaving. So it really would show a value of being a member in TouchNet, seeing, I have the opportunity to look objectively into the data I collected or the things that are happening to me and the patients in the clinic. Yeah, that was my thought.
And that thought goes in very well with our plans for Osprey, the patient registry that we're developing. It's going to be an ongoing improvement process for that, and we're working on getting that started as quickly as possible. And that's an excellent point, Marcus, about how important it is that the clinicians and the patients feel that this provides them value for their efforts. So thank you.
That also ties into Jed Downs' comment about what EMRs are being used, because with Osprey, we'll be able to collect that the same in our network. So it's not an EMR. I think that's important. It's not an electronic medical record, but it is a collection from the patient, and we'll have reporting for the clinician to be able to see how that patient is tracking as things progress, as treatments are given.
Right.
Yeah, and if I can comment, Jed, I certainly appreciate the challenges that you're experiencing, having been a solo practitioner for 10 years in Colorado. It is very challenging to bring on an EMR, to manage an EMR in a solo practice environment. And so we are certainly aware of that and are trying to, find good recommendations for members of DO-Touch.NET to help them manage what will become a bigger and bigger issue in the future. So we understand where you're coming from for sure.
I've got two more hands up. Jed, I think you probably want to follow up on that, but I've got Dr. Brooks has been waiting as well. So I guess we'll let Jed go first, and then we'll go to Dr. Brooks. How about that? There you go.
Unmuted. Okay, Jed Downs. I'm a Canadian trained osteopath, medical doctor from the United States in Wisconsin. Yeah, I have an electronic medical record, which I use Practice Fusion, which is relatively inexpensive. And, but I looked into something like Epic for a solo practitioner. The cost is $42,000 a year. It was totally out of the question. So that's where my question comes from. Okay, do you need to have one of the highfalutin health system medical records in order to be able to participate. And then I'm assuming that there are going to be, you're talking about Osprey, so that's a software program that will take care of some of the things, but it may not take care of everything that, the promise would require and so forth. But I'm assuming this is going to be done on, some sort of notepad or something like that you're going to be able to hand to patients as far as their input is concerned. But so that's kind of what I was getting at is, okay, what is the vision of what the collection process is going to consist of, and how much of it is practitioner or staff dependent, and how much of it is just the patient participation. Okay, that'll do. I'll mute myself.
Okay, all right. So I'll try to make a short answer here. The ultimate goal for Osprey is to have the ability to integrate into electronic health records so that when the patient schedules an appointment, they get an invitation to join the patient registry, and they're automatically sent questionnaires, and that the answers, a report on those questionnaires would go into the electronic health record and would be available for you to view at the time of their appointment, so that you can see how they're doing and ultimately see longitudinal tracking, like Marcus was talking about, how the patients are progressing. So trying to get that set up to ultimately work with an EMR. I see Hallie has asked if Osprey is up and running. No, we're still developing it. It is not an EMR, and getting it hooked up with EMRs is going to take several years before that happens.
Let me add a technical comment on this. So Osprey is going to run under the REDCap survey program. So you don't have to have anything at your practice running. You don't have to have your website running. It'll actually run an ATSU's virtual computing lake. So it will work there. It will link somehow to your EMRs. That is very much a future project to have that link. It's incredibly complicated, but you will not have to have an EMR to use Osprey. That's an additional thing. The advantage, if we can connect to your EMR, if you have one, is to link in that scheduling. And that way your front office staff, you make one entry on your normal scheduling in your EMR, and Osprey picks up on that in 24 hours and sends out that email and starts that process with the patient. So it like Jane said, is not an EMR standalone. It is simply a lab report. Like if you were running, a CBC, you would get then a return back of numbers. Same thing with this. You're going to get a report back that says, this is how your patient is feeling. This is the changes that you've seen from last time. So that's really it. Okay. Are there any other questions on that, or are we ready to go to William? Okay. There you go, Dr. Brooks.
I forgot to introduce myself earlier. I'm Bill Brooks. I'm a DO specialist in OMM, currently in a small private practice. And so one of the elephants in the room here is consent. And in theory, there's a difference between quality data and consented research. And to get reimbursed, potentially in the future, you're going to have quality data, not merely consented data, because if half your practice doesn't want to consent, or if it's based on a given patient that you're showing affirmative outcomes, which right now is fairly much the standard for physical therapy. They've got to show that patients are getting better on a case-by-case basis for Medicare to reimburse. Then Osprey is consented research. And so that's going to be a limitation. The frustration I've run into, having chosen to go into private practice, is that REDCap's not available to the general public. It's only available through non-for-profit educational institutions. So it might be a service that ATSU could provide to those of us who want to gather this information above and beyond Osprey for quality purposes. In turn, though, because I've been working with the University of Arizona on this, our concern has been that using the University of Arizona's REDCap, we had to get the proper legal documentation that they're going to be HIPAA compliant for my patients. Took a year and a half to get a proposed contract. My lawyers have looked it over and they have a number of questions and I haven't had time to get back to them. But this is something that should be on your radar screen. And I know that our presenter from Hershey talked about some free but suboptimal method for collecting patient-reported outcomes. So it's just something for you to think about, because somehow we've got to open up. I mean, the logjam is that nobody can use REDCap except people who are associated with the university, and then it's only going to be, at least currently, if the research is consented. So, okay, Jeff, I'm done.
Trying to
He's
keep
our
us on time.
timekeeper.
I'm gonna interject real quick on REDCap. You would not be running REDCap in your private practice. We would be running it for research. So that's how we're getting around that rule on REDCap.
I know you're doing that now, but what I'm saying is,
and for Osprey,
that's a limitation. That
Well,
it's not a limitation because we're running it.
I'll make a comment that patient-reported outcomes can be done in any practice, and they don't have to go through REDCap. That you can.
Yeah, I know they don't have to. What I'm suggesting is that if that became available, those of us who want to collect quality data, and well, the vast majority of people, I suspect, would want to use Osprey because of all the work you've done. There's some of us who might want to gather other types of information. So it's just an idea for you to consider that ATSU could develop as a service that in turn might facilitate participation in the consented research.
Very good. All right. Hallie asked about IRB, and Jeff said, part of the planning process is to develop, to have a unified IRB process for DO-Touch.NET projects. Currently, if you don't have your own IRB and you're involved with a DO-Touch.NET project, our IRB covers that for you. So, okay. Well, it's 11 o'clock. And we don't want to keep you away from your patients too long. So I really appreciate you all joining us today. And as I said about the last two episodes. This episode will also be on the DO-Touch.NET website. You just have to log in. We'll have a recording of this, and we have the discussion forum area, so we can keep talking about this, and we love your ideas on how we can make together we can make DO-Touch.NET a better practice-based research network that is useful for all physicians and clinicians who use osteopathic manipulation in their practice. Brian, do you have anything to add?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for their participation today. And our next meeting, Jane will talk to you about the next couple. This is a quarterly one, and we are hopefully during that time, the one thing we didn't get to talk about is that we are looking at how we can evaluate the role of manipulative treatment, manipulative therapy as a way of caring for people who have persisting symptoms after COVID. So you'll be getting more information about that. But we will have further details at our next quarterly meeting, and that will be in July.
Yep. And so our next episode of Let's Talk About OMM Research will be an educational webinar. It's on May, the third Friday in May. I can't remember what that day is. Sorry, I forgot to look.
For you here. May 21st.
May 21st. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And so we'll be hearing from Dr. Don Altman about COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 symptoms, and we think it'll be a useful webinar for you. So we hope to see you then. All right. Thank you all for joining us.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.